We are here in the beautiful Spokane with Ben Greenfield.
Like Shrek, dude.
Ben, how's it going, mate?
It's going well, dude. I'm pleased to have you guys here in Little Forest Oasis.
It's great. We love it here. We've only been here for a few hours, but we want to stop here for longer. We've been talking about it now.
Squeeze a lot in. We've already climbed up and down ropes. We've jumped in the cold pool.
I want to move here. This is amazing.
A lot less traffic in LA, baby.
If you meet someone and they don't know who you are and they say, Ben, what do you do for a living? What do you say?
Tell them I work at Subway. That usually shuts up the conversation pretty quick right there.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you're boring. I'm going to talk to somebody else. Now make sandwiches. Actually, I usually will tell people I'm an author because people get that, right? When I say I'm a blogger and a podcaster and a human performance consultant, usually like the eyes of the 65-year-old woman sitting next to me on the plane just glaze over, or somebody tries to pound on the elevator and get out as fast as they can. So I tell people I'm an author, but really, I spend most of my time either researching and reading, or writing, or doing some form of new media, right, like podcasting or making videos, or traveling around the world either speaking or competing, because I compete professionally in obstacle course racing after spending about 8 or 9 years competing in Ironman triathlon, bodybuilding before that, and then playing collegiate tennis before that. So ultimately, author, speaker, athlete, coach, that type of thing.
Right.
A little bit of everything.
I first heard about you through Glenn. Before I knew what a podcast was, he was like, I listen to this podcast, Ben Greenfield. He's great, you should listen to him. So I listened to a few of your podcasts at the time, and it was fantastic. Seem to have been podcasting forever, right?
Yeah, wow. I was podcasting like right when iTunes first launched podcasts. It was about a few months after that. I sat down in my little gym, because I used to run these brick and mortar personal training studios in Washington and Idaho. And I sat down in my gym, and I had my business shirt on and my hair all slicked back, and my and my video camera set up, the webcam on my computer, and I recorded a podcast. And all my podcasts, I was going through the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research and highlighting everything that I found relevant in there and talking to people about it. And then it kind of progressed from there. I realized that if I didn't do video, I didn't have to do my hair or put on a shirt. So I started doing audio, which I do now. I still just record my underwear in the office over there. And then I started interviewing people, because rather than just me talking, which I kind of got bored with, I figured I'd start actually getting experts and athletes and physicians and people on the show, and it's just been kind of an uphill climb / snowball / downhill slide from there. Right. And yeah.
Did you ever think back then you would be as big as you are now? Because now you're a pretty big podcaster, right?
I'm not a big podcaster. Not compared to those.
Well,
not compared to the NPR guys.
What you're known for, though,
yeah. I think based on, to open the kimono, the whole iTunes algorithm for what it takes to be a successful podcaster, a big part of that is based on the frequency of podcasting and your consistency of podcasting. I'm extremely stubborn. I've put out 2 episodes a week for almost 8 or 9 years now.
Wow.
So there's consistency. So I think iTunes likes that as far as ranking me high as a podcaster. And then they also like the number of subscribers that you have.
Right.
And you don't have to necessarily I don't have a great podcast that's super slick and produced and everything, but I've just been doing it so freaking long that there's a lot of subscribers. So a lot of subscribers, a lot of episodes. So I've got those 2 things under my belt, and I think that helps with podcasting.
One of the reasons why you've been successful with the podcast as well, I remember, right, like you said, you started right when iTunes first started doing podcasts, and I was looking around for good fitness podcasts that spoke to me as somebody who was still learning and trying to get up to speed with terminology and all that kind of stuff. And you always spoke in kind of layman's terms. You brought things down in ways that it was easy to understand for people that were still learning and trying to expand their knowledge without science just being thrown at them ridiculously, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it was easy to absorb a lot of knowledge in one episode, and it's that got me hooked from the beginning. So I think that's part of the reason why you're successful. You don't go too far over people's heads with really complicated terms.
I try to reel myself back if I do, but what I do now,
I think he does a little bit.
I think I try to have like a sidekick on the show to reel me back and ask me like the layman's questions too.
Yeah, I mean, I'd pick up things from the podcast and it would make sense to me, and then I'd talk to other people about it and they'd be like, "How the hell did you learn that? Where did you get that from? Like, that sounds really complicated." I'm like, it's really not. If you start to just break it down and just talk about it on a normal level, it's just once you get to grips with the terms, it's not like I find that easier to learn that way than sitting there reading a book and trying to.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, audio is really interesting because you can learn while you're on the fly, like when you're cleaning the house or the garage, or you're riding a bike, or you're training. So for me, that's like most of the time I'm training, I'm either listening to an audio book or listening to a podcast. I mean, I make fun of NPR, but I actually like their podcast. My favorite podcast every week is the TED Talks audio, where they'll take one topic, like one TED Talk, and that TED Talk falls into a specific category, right? Like grit or resilience or creativity or whatever. They'll do like 3 or 4 other TED Talks and just interview the author and geek out on TED Talks for an hour. So that's a good one. We're getting attacked by my little blue heeler Australian Shepherd mix Comet here. He's out hanging out with us. Yeah. So we're doing the backyard podcast out in the forest.
Yeah, when we come here, I was like looking to see what Ben's podcast studio was, and I've seen the 2 mics and this is nice, isn't it?
I've got my little, so what I have inside there is I have a stand-up workstation, and the way I have that set up is there's a treadmill, and it's a mechanical treadmill, right? So there's these treadmills made by this company called Trueform, and they force you to basically be in the proper biomechanical position when you are when you're walking or when you're running. But the other thing I like about it, because I'm big into like this whole home that you guys are at right now, it's a stupid home. There's no Wi-Fi, there's no Bluetooth, there's very low levels of electricity. You know, it's all, you know, the air, the light, the water, the electricity is all taken into account when it comes to your personal health. But the treadmill doesn't have any motor, right? So it's not churning out a lot of dirty electricity while I'm at my office. And then next to that is one of those topo mats with all sorts of different like surfaces that your feet can stand on, so you're able to move your feet and work your feet in different positions all day long. And then you'll notice there's 2 light panels you can see through the glass door there, because they're right outside my office outdoors, and those are called Juve lights. They churn out near and far infrared light, and so not only do you get all the growth hormone and the skin benefits of infrared light, but it's kind of a funny story. They've done studies on rats and now humans where they will shine a 600 to 700 nanometer wavelength of light on their gonads, on their testicles, and they found a significant increase in sperm production and in testosterone. So I actually will pull my pants down there at the office a few times a day and just like flip that friggin' light on. And then the other thing you'll see is that I've got a pair of gravity compression boots, and so when I'm standing at my workstation so that my feet aren't heavy by the end of the day, you know, especially I'm training at the end of the day, some of my legs aren't super heavy. Yeah. There are these graded compression boots developed by a NASA materials engineer, and they actually pump blood up and down your legs as you're standing there working. So there's all sorts of little like hacks inside that office that I can use. So by the time I finish the work day, I feel pretty good. I don't feel like I worked all day. I actually feel really good.
It's a good job that your house is in the middle of a big piece of land, because imagine walking past someone's house and you look through the window
and he's there like just red light on his balls.
Oh dude, FedEx guy, the UPS guy, everybody, like I think just about everybody has seen me naked, because I go out to that cold pool that we were in every morning, and usually like I'll do my sauna in there inside the house. So I sauna for about 30 minutes, and sauna is really good for increasing the number of what are called heat shock proteins that you have, which are excellent for immune system and for general nervous system resilience. And then the blood flow, the cardiovascular blood flow, not only creates a lot of nitric oxide, which is like Viagra for your whole body, but you get an increase in erythropoietin, your red blood cell precursors, similar to what you'd get if you were to like blood dope with illegal EPO, or you were to like move up high on a mountaintop and train. And you know, you sweat, you detox through the skin. You know, your skin is a major detoxification organ, so you sweat through that. But I do that for about 20 to 30 minutes in the morning. And then I really do. I strip off all my clothes and walk out here naked and jump in the cold pool. And, you know, that's about 9 a.m. or so, right about when FedEx and UPS are. So, yeah, I think they've all seen me walking around the forest nude. So, yeah, I live out in the middle of the forest, but that still hasn't protected me from other people seeing me, and far less than my skivvies.
When I Google biohacking, because I had Ryan Munsey. I know you know Ryan.
Oh yeah, I know Ryan Munsey. Yeah,
he's on the podcast now. He's
Yeah.
on his. And we talked about that a little bit. So kind of the first time I really heard about it, I know you are familiar with it.
Yeah.
Then I started Googling it because I was interested in it, and you were one of the first people that come up. How would you describe biohacking? I mean, you've just kind of described it with all that
Yeah.
stuff there, right?
Well, I mean, like, yeah, that kind of biohacking. Honestly, originally, it was cats like getting magnets installed in their fingertips to be able to do like what you see people in Minority Report doing, like Tom
Right.
Cruise in Minority, like moving things on screens, or Kevin Warwick, one of like the fathers of biohacking. They call him like a cyborg. He installed chips into his body so that he and his wife could telecommunicate. There's another guy who injected chlorophyll into his eyeballs to be able to see at night. There are people installing prosthetic limbs. Even if you look at like a longevity expert and really a very forward thinker, Peter Diamandis, he has installed a self-quantifying chip in his body that will read his blood glucose and his lactate, and very similar like a Fitbit, except it's embedded in the skin. To me, that's truly hacking your biology. That's hacking the human body in what I would consider an extreme enough way to label yourself as a biohacker. Putting a stick of butter in your coffee, that's not biohacking. That's just basically toying around with little nutrition tweaks. Honestly, though, like if you step back and look at it, it's just figuring out a way to shortcut your way to a desired result, as you know, for your body, or hacking a system to get it to do something it would not normally otherwise do. So an example of that would be when I travel, especially we're out here, we're on a north-facing slope, and you guys could imagine in the winter it gets pretty dark and gray out here, especially with all these trees around. You know, it's a nice sunny day today. I mean, the summer solstice was a few days ago, so it's one of the longest days of the year. So we have plenty of light right now. But in the winter, when I need to jumpstart my circadian rhythm in the morning, or when I've been traveling and my body's on
The circadian rhythm.
It's your body's natural 24-hour biological clock.
Right.
So it's very important for sleep cycles and for feeding cycles as well, for your body to metabolize food properly. And so when I don't have the proper light cues, or I've been traveling a lot, like I've gone from east and I've been back on the East Coast speaking or racing or whatever, and I come back west, let's say I wake up at 4 a.m. back out here on the Pacific Coast, because for me it's 7 a.m. because I just got back from back east, and I'm on this north-facing slope and it's dark and it's gray. Well, in a situation like that, I could just put up with the fact that I'm going to be waking up at 4 a.m. for the next few days until my body gets used to the new time zone, or I could speed things up. I could use a hack, and in this case what I would use is a 10,000 lux set of glasses that are upstairs next to the kitchen table that emit greenish white light that entrain my body to think that it's looking at the sun, and I pair that with in-ear phototherapy that shines a very bright light into my ear, where there are photoreceptors that act very similarly to the photoreceptors at the back of my eyes. And if I wait until 7 a.m., when I've normally been waking up at 4 a.m., right? But I wait till 7 a.m. and I do that blast of light in the eyes, blast of light in the ears for about 20 minutes while I'm making coffee and tooling around the house. All of a sudden, my body shifts back into the normal time zone extremely quickly. Or if you want to fight off like winter seasonal affective disorder, things along those lines, same thing, right? So that would be considered an example of a biohack, right? Like I'm hacking my biology using a system or using a tool to get it to do something it would normally take days or weeks to do. I can get to that in a single day using like eye and ear therapy.
Would you class just basic supplementation as a form of biohacking as well?
Yeah, it kind of is, but I mean, really, if you look at our ancestors, they were harvesting plant-based oils, and we're surrounded. If you see some of the yellow flowers out here, that's St. John's wort, right? Like it's sold as a supplement for depression, but our ancestors, and my boys now will do this, we just go squeeze the oil out of the yellow flowers, and my boys call it the happy flower, and it's great for just a little uplift in your mood. The same thing could be said for, that's a stinging nettle out there, that one over by the tree. We could pick the little seeds off that, and that will increase testosterone, and we can go buy that in a supplement or a capsule or an oil form as well. But it's tough to say it's a biohack. I would consider that just like eating things that help the body, right? Like, so yeah, it's tricky. Like, it's a sketchy definition, and honestly, I don't think it really matters like how you define it, as much as realizing that whether it's through ancestral living or whether it's through science, you can indeed take care of the body in a very mindful way that gets cool results. And that's what I do. Like, my kids and I, we forage out here and we find all sorts of different plants and nutrients, and we'll dig up Oregon grapefruit and make teas to help out with the stomach, or we'll harvest wild nettle, not just for the taste and the nutrient density, but for that effect on hormones. And but then I'll go inside and like shine laser lights on my balls, right? So I kind of like have one foot in the realm of ancestral living and one foot in the realm of modern science. That's kind of the way I like to live.
What I love about this is, if I walk into a Whole Foods or a supplement store or a homeopathic store in LA, like, I can get everything that I think I need in supplementation form in that store.
Yeah.
But you've got it in your back.
Yeah, we're growing here. Everything, yeah. After we podcast tonight, we'll eat, for breakfast tomorrow morning, we'll have eggs from the chickens out there. And tonight, your salad will be made up of either something that was picked from this forest or that grew in those raised garden beds over there. The meat is something that is either something I've bow hunted personally or else one of my friends has caught. And so, it's a matter of really being mindful. Yeah.
So this is like natural living, right?
It's natural living with a little bit of science thrown into, yeah.
This might be a stupid question for you, but back in the day when cavemen used to eat like this, right? Used to have the eggs, used to hunt for the food, used to have the but they used to live to like they were 30 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's
that kind of sweet spot.
Right. There was obviously more. There was less peace and more war. So you could be killed by a fellow human being. Right. There were more wild animals, and we didn't have as many advanced weapons. Like, I have a compound bow and several guns, and if an animal comes up to kill me, I can probably kill it first. We have advantages such as better bedding to sleep in, so we have like more regular sleep and more comfort there. Yeah. We have things that can assist us with anti-aging, like ways to concentrate nutrients from plants. For example, you take something that I swear by and use quite frequently for my own health, and that would be essential oils, right? So I have an enormous barbed wire scar on my back that I got from racing a Spartan several days ago. I could have, if it was back in the day and that was an enemy I'd fought and I'd been scraped by a spear or whatever, I could have died from, tetanus or any other number of different diseases. But I've been treating that with frankincense, a lavender, and a manuka essential oil, which are steam distilled oils from that plant. I'd need pounds and pounds and pounds of manuka honey to get what I get from a few drops of a manuka essential oil. Yeah. And that wouldn't have existed in ancient times simply because the technology of steam distillation didn't exist. And so we do have technologies that allow us to take what our ancestors might have had access to if they would have had those same technologies and still live naturally, but use those technologies to enhance our lifespan, for example.
Have you ever used any technology or any biohacks that's kind of went wrong and fucked you up on?
Yeah. I haven't. I'm pretty careful. I always choose things in the light of whether or not there are any health and longevity trade-offs. So I really haven't done that much damage to my body because everything from light that I stick up my nose to cold therapy to anything like that. I'm pretty careful. So I can't say that I've injured myself more in Spartan races and triathlons, and probably about the closest you could say I've been injured would be like this whole cold thermogenesis thing, and swimming in cold lakes and rivers and cold soaks. Like, I've gotten frostbite and experiment with how long I could stay in like an ice cold bath. I've lost bowel control and nasty things like that, but I've never really hurt myself that bad. I mean, there's enough research out there to where if you choose things wisely, but I'm also not doing these things that those cats I was talking about earlier are doing. I'm not injecting chlorophyll into my eyeballs or doing anything that crazy, or even things like peptides like BPC 157, for example, that you would inject to, into a muscle that's injured to enhance recovery, or TB 500 or something like that. Like your shoulder was injured, Glenn, so we threw some or elbow was injured, so we put some TB 500 on it, and we used electrostim on it using this unit called a Mark Pro. And both of those, electrostimulation has been studied pretty extensively. It's not going to cause Lou Gehrig's disease or any other like multiple sclerosis or some kind of nerve issue. A lot of these peptides, they've been studied extremely successfully in horses and rodent models, and granted those aren't humans, but I look into stuff pretty extensively before I determine whether I was going to bring them out of the house or, inject it into my friends.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's one thing that I love about your podcast is when you react or respond or review a recent study, you're super critical as to the methods of the study and the agenda of the study and all that kind of
Well, that's how I spend the first couple hours of my day. Is I wake up and I have my morning routine, right? So I do my gratitude journaling.
Yeah, can you talk about your morning routine?
Sure. Yeah, it's when I'm at home, and I replicate most of this when I travel as well. I wake up and I roll over and I strap on a Bluetooth-enabled heart rate monitor. It's about the only time I'll put like some fancy self-quantification device on my body, because, like this ring that I'm wearing will track my sleep and my body temperature and my nervous system and all sorts of different things, but it also has an internal built-in computer. It's called an Aura ring. And because it has an internal built-in computer, unlike a Fitbit or a Jawbone, which emit a class 1 Bluetooth signal every 1 to 3 seconds, searching for a phone or a device to talk to, it just stays nice and quiet. We're getting attacked by a dog again. The Bluetooth-enabled heart rate monitor that I strap on in the morning tests the strength of my nervous system, and it will tell me whether my sympathetic nervous system or my parasympathetic nervous system need rest and recovery. So it allows me to kind of call an audible in terms of the type of training that I would do for that day. Yeah, and I use an app called NatureBeat that will collect the data from that monitor. It's extremely efficacious for predicting illness or injury or overtraining. Or on the flip side, if you want to overtrain and overreach and kind of get your heart rate variability very low and then super compensate and recover, you can use it as a tool for that. But while I'm doing that in the mornings, I also will do gratitude journaling. So I read a little devotional or an inspirational booklet, and then I write down what I'm grateful for that day and who I could help or serve that day and what truth I discovered in that day's reading. And I do that while my variability monitor is checking me up. And then I get out of bed and I go downstairs and I put on the coffee. And while the coffee is brewing, you guys could see in my office, I have a whole box full of like medieval like torture devices, vibrating foam rollers, and these things plugged into the wall over there you can use to vibrate your body, a Myo Buddy and a Viper, and all these things I can do to do deep tissue work. So rather than getting like a 2-hour massage every week, I just do like 10 to 15 minutes of deep tissue work and stretching each morning, right? So consistently just like hit a sore spot or hit a spot that needs work. And then I will, I also, before I do that, as the coffee's on, I have a giant glass of salt water. I have a jar up on the kitchen table. I can show you later. It's chock full of these big chunks of Himalayan sea salt.
Just jump in there. Do you
Yeah.
the temperature of the water? Do you go cold or warm?
For water in the morning?
Yeah.
I like warm water. I find that it kind of helps to move things through my system a little bit better, so I'm able to have a giant dump later on between that and the coffee. Yeah. Yeah, and occasionally, like I'll also a few times a week when I'm doing like the vibration or the massage tools, I use a lot of people don't do deep tissue work on their stomach, and they get constipation, they get those issues. But a lot of times it's just due to fascial adhesions and and the need for massage and like the ileocecal valve and the areas of the stomach. Yeah, so I'll use devices like that on the tummy.
Why do you put the salt in the water?
So the salt in the water is really good for mineralizing your body, and every cell operates, the membrane of the cell operates on an electrochemical gradient. And salt and electrolytes, those are actual electrical conductors. And so if you have adequate minerals, your cells conduct electricity far more readily. And you can actually charge the water. You can add a little bit of an electrical charge to the water if you add the minerals. Then what I do is I set the water out in the sunshine. So I'll set it out in the sunshine during the day and move it in at night. And when I drink that in the morning, it's very electrically charged, mineral-rich water. So I'll have that, do all like the foam rolling and the stretching and everything for 10, 15 minutes. And then once the coffee's ready, I'll sip my coffee. And for a while, I'll just read journal articles and research. Sometimes I'll write fiction. I don't jump into Facebook or email or anything like that. And then after I've kind of finished my coffee, I'll then go and have my glorious morning poo. And then I come back downstairs after that, and I do a quick workout. And I don't do a CrossFit WOD. I don't do anything hard like we did this afternoon.
Right.
Because really it's between about 4 and 7 p.m. that your grip strength peaks and your testosterone peaks and your body temperature peaks and your reaction time peaks and even things like your post-workout protein synthesis peaks. When all these things peak, that's the time when you're supposed to do a hard workout. So that's when I do a hard workout. In the morning, I just do something very simple. I'll get in the sauna for 20 or 30 minutes and then finish up with a cold plunge. Or I'll go on a walk in the sunshine there's a big farmer's road up here. If you touch the forest up where we were throwing the spear earlier, if we were to keep going up that hill just a little bit farther, there's this nice long farming road. It takes about 15 minutes to walk down and 15 minutes to walk back. So I'll go on a walk and just do like deep nasal breathing during a walk, or I'll do like an easy swim. I'll ride my bike down to the river and do an easy swim. I'll do something very easy for about 30 minutes in the morning. And then I shower up, usually finish with a cold shower and start my day, my actual work day. So yeah, that's my morning routine.
That's interesting that you said about grip strength and reaction times peaking between like 4 and 7, because when I get to if I ever in the gym in the morning, even when I was teaching the 7 a.m. classes, I see people working out high intensity at 7 a.m. and I used to hate trying to do those classes at that time. My body and everything just wasn't
if
ready
that's
to
the
do
only time you're going to do it. And don't get me wrong, if I'm at a freaking conference and I know I'm going to be sitting inside a stale conference, I'll get up in the morning and I'll do like 10 sets of 30 burpees and just charge up the body.
Right.
Yeah, if your hand is forced. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I don't know how people perform at that time of day. It's crazy.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to talk about, I know we're going to get lunch soon, dinner soon, is your kids. You've got 2 9-year-old boys.
Yeah.
And
River and Taryn.
Yeah, and what I've seen so far, I've not spent loads of time with just a little bit, is the way you bring them up. I think it's great. Yeah, you've got them boxing when you come to LA and doing other activities. Here you're doing crazy obstacle course. You're telling me they're on a wilderness camp just today.
Yeah, they have a wilderness survival camp. It was supposed to be today. It starts next week. I was incorrect, but yeah, they go out and they learn how to sleep overnight in the woods and make fire with a bow. And
I'm guessing they haven't got phones or iPads. No. And that's what every other kid seems to have around.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they'll use my phone sometimes, but they don't really they know. I give them the choice, but they know that Wi-Fi and Bluetooth does have an effect on the body. So when they use my phone, they'll put it in airplane mode and play around with it a little bit, and then take it off airplane mode and give it back to me. So
we've spent probably 10, 15 years, a long time in the city. Right. But me personally, I grew up in Lancashire in England, and it's a lot like this where I grew up, a lot of fields and countryside. And my upbringing as a kid until I was probably like 15, 16 was like this. I was out in the summer. It didn't go dark in England until like 10:30, 11 at night, and my upbringing was doing this kind of stuff.
But that was before technology.
Exactly. So now my life's completely flipped, and I'm living like a completely city modern lifestyle, and this kind of lifestyle's just completely gone from my day-to-day existence. So to come back here and do this and then do that workout today and see how your kids are reminds me of how I grew up, and it's kind of making me think now that I've got kids, it's like I want to kind of go back to this kind of level a little bit. I mean, I don't know if I could do it full time.
Well, people ask me, they're like, dude, why do you as a speaker and as a guy who's traveling all the time, why do you live in freaking Spokane? Right. And it's because I have this oasis that I can come back to. Right. Yeah, it's inconvenient. Yeah, I probably spend more money on airplane flights than I need to. And, there's not as many entrepreneurial opportunities as there would be if I lived in LA or Austin or New York or San Diego. But yeah, I think there's definite benefits to just kind of being able to unplug and be in nature and and enjoy this
I was thinking that as well. Why the hell does he live out here in the sticks? But now I've been here.
When we were driving in, now that we've experienced it,
now I know exactly why.
Get it.
I can't think of anywhere better that you could really bring your kids up in somewhere like this.
I mean, look at this, guys. The sun coming through the trees, and the birds are singing.
I was just listening to your most recent podcast with Thomas Cowan.
Yeah, Dr. Thomas Cowan.
He was talking about not playing with your kids and kind of just letting them develop themselves and give them free reign to go discover
there's
things.
even a book about that called Free Range Kids.
I actually was looking at downloading the digital version on the flight, but it's such an interesting concept because it sounds like a really controversial headline. Don't play with your kids. Like, what? And then it's like when you actually listen to what he's got to say, it makes complete sense. It's like you're hands off, but you let their brains develop and their imagination grow, and then as long as they know that they've got you when they need you, it's like that's the best way to do it.
Exactly. And granted, we don't have a lot of mountain lions and bears out here to grab them, so
Ben, if anyone wants to find you, where can they find you?
Come out to the middle of the forest, hunt me down, baby. I'll be out here running around naked. You could just go to bengreenfieldfitness.com. That's a good spot. That's where I got my blog. I do a podcast, like we mentioned. Put out videos. I have a whole bunch of free resources out there, like my not just my morning routine, but my afternoon and my evening routine. It's like a free PDF you can download. Whole bunch of stuff on there, but that'd be a good place. Would be bengreenfieldfitness.com.
What's in a nutshell, what's going on with the Ben Greenfield Fitness Systems as well? That's kind of like your
if you go to it's Greenfield Fitness Systems, that's where I kind of keep track of like all the supplements I'd recommend and the biohacks and the foods and all that jazz. So that's where all that is. And later on this year, at the time that we're recording this, I'm rebranding that to really be a brand that focuses on complete optimization of your mind, your body, and your spirit. This idea of ki, life force, energy, prana, and it's going to be called Kion, Kion. And so that'll be the new brand that we launch later on this year.
Sounds great. Looking forward to seeing that. So, guys, if you follow us at Boxing Life on Instagram, we'll tag Ben in some recent videos and some footage of this trip here in Spokane.
Spokampton, Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Ben.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Cheers.